are the world.
We are the children.
We are the ones who make her
Brighter day, so let's start giving.
All right.
And we're gonna sell some real estate in 2024, just you and me.
We are the world, we are the children, and my guest today is Tracey Barrett to talk about how the market is what we make it. Thank you for joining me today, Tracey.
Thank you for having me, Eddie. I appreciated our impromptu We Are the World headphones, pull it off and sing it session.
Yes. Because we are the world.
We are
we
Redwood.
are the children.
Oh, we are Redwood.
We are Redwood. We actually thought about doing that, true story, as our rally song. So maybe next year that'll be the thing. So
we karaoke lip synced Feed the World. So
okay, yeah, it just feels so right. We're getting into that time of year. Mm-hmm. I asked you to come on today to talk about how the market is what you make it to be, and this is the perfect market to talk about that in. But if you could give everybody a rundown of how you got into real estate and what you're doing with Focus on Nova team, that would be a great place to start, I would think.
Okay, sure. So in 2011, I got my real estate license at the encouragement of my mother-in-law, Ingrid, who many of you know. She is incomparable and original. And together, I was her little shadow. We did the whole thing. We showed up every day. What she did, I did, jump so high. She really taught me the value of hustle, diversification of where you're finding your clients, the value of your sphere of influence and the people you know and staying in touch with them, and just keeping it real. So what we ended up doing is a few years later is with the value of the team, it was not so much that we were able to do more business, because if she left, the business would be half. So instead, it was just go pedal to the metal. It's the ability to back each other up, support each other, co-market. The collective statistics for everyone is better than the individual. And so that was really the intention of the team, is how do you raise up a group of professionals together so that you can accomplish your income goals and lifestyle goals, more importantly.
As an outside observer, I think that's why you're so successful in growing the great team that you have, is that you're so focused on the lifestyle goals. And we should dive into that. But in terms of like the state of the market right now, I have this theory that the market is a tale of two cities. It is, for homeowners, it is the best of times because we have this housing shortage. It's 6 million home shortage by most estimates. So you have the millennial generation is entering their prime home buying years, and there's not enough homes, which means from a supply and demand perspective, that all points to values continuing to go up. From a volume perspective, and one could say from a real estate agent, real estate broker's perspective, it's sort of the worst at times because we make a living when people are naturally moving. And right now we have a lot of people sitting on 2, 3, 4% interest rates that are looking at the tea leaves and saying, now's a great time to stay in my house, even if I have too much room, even if I don't have enough room. I'm very comfortable with this low 30-year fix. Does that seem about accurate?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, people are paying down principal and less to interest. The home ownership is more affordable, and the reality is for the move up buyer in particular, they may, you hit the nail on the head, they'd rather stay in a 1,800, 2,000 square foot townhouse and keep their mortgage where it's at rather than sell and move up into a larger home and triple the size of their mortgage because of the interest rate that's there. And so the affordability is ultimately clamping down the release of a normal organic, I choose to move up seller and buyer.
Yet people are still moving. So the impetus for when I said, I need to get this on camera, is when you talked to me about how your team has recently put 7 buyers under contract. And I believe the way that you described it was these 7 buyers, they knew what they wanted, they knew what they were willing to pay, and they knew what they were not willing to waive, which was things like home inspections. So right. Could you go into so there is demand. We said there's demand, but there's actually action out there too.
Correct. So, looking at the year, I mean, clearly this is a year where volume wise and transaction wise, there is less going on, and directly impacting on the team is that is showing in the form of purchasers. The purchasers are down, and that is either because they don't have a down payment when there was lower interest rates and they didn't have the cash to play ball when it was multiple interest rate or multiple offers and you needed cash was king. Additionally, you had the people that did have the finances to do that, but they were not willing to give up any of their rights as buyers. They wanted to have the home inspection. They wanted to know they weren't paying too much by having the appraisal and the conventional and the financing contingencies that were there. So what we're seeing is, I mean, 50% of the buyers that we have ratified and taken to closing this year happen in Q1 through 3. And as we entered Q4, well, not really Q4, but September 1, the other half of the buyers that we ratified were all there. And it's a direct correlation to the fact that they reset the dial on what their purchase price was going to be. They understood that while the interest rate was higher, they're not going to come down anytime soon. They were throwing money at rent or needed to make the move. But then they realized is that while there might be a multiple offer situation, the prices that you're seeing are generally at asking price, maybe a little bit above, but some of my purchasers have gotten it below asking, some with seller subsidy, and almost without exception, at a minimum, a right to void home inspection, if not negotiated home inspection, in addition to keeping the financing and appraisal contingencies. So we've been doing a really good job about reaching out to our buyers and just re-explaining that to them. And we're converting people that are looking to stay in their homes for 4 to 5 years. They're good to go with the property that's there, and they're confident with their purchase, and they're willing to pay that at the interest rates where they stand today.
How many team members do you have right now on Focus on Nova, Tracey?
Okay, so for licensed agents, we have 7 team members. I have a half-time marketing coordinator who develops all of our postcards. She does all of our pop-by development and preparation. She does all of the behind-the-scene marketing things, hence the name, that she does for us. I also use a transaction coordinator, which helps alleviate some of that evening work time that I need to be dedicating to the family. So I really appreciate Christine as well. So total, there's 9 people that are affiliated with us. 7 of us are agents. 4 of us are primary agents, meaning that our names are on most of it. We've got people like Ingrid who have practiced for 45 years, have this incredible database. She doesn't want to deal with issues anymore. So she acts as our buyer agent and Gal Friday. So again, it's organic, but there's 7 of us that are actively selling real estate right now.
So is it hard to motivate your team in a market like this, or do you just have go-getters that understand where the market is and meet their clients there and serve their best interest without a ton of coaching from you?
So I'm fortunate that the team are a bunch of go-getters. These are women that wake up and know they have a goal to hit, know they need to do the work to make it happen. Now, there are times when you get discouraged. You know, the deal falls through, you thought you were going to get it and you didn't. You see the headlines and we come home to discuss it. We meet once a week, and the very first 15 minutes of every single meeting we call it the coffee talk. And what are people experiencing? And we have that conversation, and we try to put out any of the embers that are just creating worry or uncertainty, and then strategize how to overcome it, nip it in the bud, and rework it. So yeah, we try to hit our problems head on. We try to hit our problems head on and figure out a solution right away to be dynamic with how we're approaching the market.
All right, so this is a credit to your marketing, but I always feel as an observer watching the stuff that you present on Instagram that your team is just always meeting, which tells me that you are coming to different meetings with a camera crew that is capturing what you guys do in motion. Does that ever happen and you've got your camera person and your team's just like, I don't feel like performing on video today?
So that's the other thing. And I really should have included my social media team as well when you asked me about my team. No, we decided long ago that a resource of consistency and messaging was really, really important with the team. So we did hire a social media company to help us with that. We have 7 people that can defray those costs as an individual agent. This is not hard to do, but it's worth it. In fact, Ingrid and I were having a conversation recently, and back in the day, the FaceTime, and you can relate to this as well. The FaceTime that you had with the public was the Washington Post in the real estate section, and the real estate section was fast. It was fat, and people looked at it, and that was Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and Google back in the day. And she was saying that as an individual agent, and she was a top producing agent, she was spending anywhere from $1,800 to $2,500 a month as a individual agent to get her listings exposed. In the grand scheme of things, for social media, you can usually get somebody to do an individual agent for around $400. So it's a fraction of the cost that the senior agents that were killing it back in the day on paper were doing it. So to answer non-circuitously your question, when we have meetings, we have a set date that the social media person comes in and gets B-roll so that y'all see what we're doing. And some of it's fun and some of it's angry and a lot of it is work, and we put it out there.
I love it. It gives your consumers a bird's eye view to the work that your team puts in to sell their properties, and I'm sure that's a difference maker. Interestingly enough, a big value add that we had as a young company at Redwood was we used to have this promotion where we will put your property, right? This was early to mid 2000s, in the Washington Post week in, week out. So we took out a big half-page ad. It was a big spend. I think it was somewhere $2,500 to $3,000 a week. And we were addicted to it. And it was hard to break away from. But at one point, the market slowed down and the inventory really shifted to the internet, and we had to shift as well.
When you got your MySpace account?
Yeah, MySpace. We never advertised there, but we've always been big on the Google, and I'm sure that we used to access it through the AOL. So I'd like to pivot back to business planning. It's that time of year. Could you walk me through what you're going to do with your team to pull everything together for 2024? I'd love to hear that.
Right. So we do take the lead from the Redwood business planning section. I think it's really important to drill down. And with that, it's very Tom Ferry method and then specialized to what Redwood has to offer to help build the business. And so, we do say, okay, the financial goal individually for each team member is different. Mine's different than somebody else's. I've got to get 2 kids through college. Ingrid needs to go on a cruise next year. Different. So we figure out what our individual goals are. We drill it down to what the touches need to be per day, per week, new people, new conversations versus old conversations. We have fine-tuned our stats to where each deal came from each year, every transaction. Did it come from the sphere of influence? Did it come from your networking group? Did it come from an internet lead? Did you get it at an open house? So now we know kind of where we should bucket our marketing dollars and percentage-wise where we should be spending our energies. Year after year, the sphere of influence always produces. I mean, they're the easy peasy warm leads, in they come. And then we try to figure that piece out. Once we figured out the touches, we then break it down into the various buckets where it needs to be focused. How are we going to reach the sphere? How are we going to get into our geo farm? What worked last year? What didn't work? We take the money for each of it and see if it really did make sense. What can be eliminated? What needs to be added? We look at all of that, and then we do a retreat. And this year we're going down to the River House, and we'll go and we'll put on PJs for 2 days and wake up and have coffee and croissants and work for 8 straight hours for 2 days, maybe have a nice dinner or a meal out and knock it out. And by the time we leave, we have nailed down the budget for the year. We have nailed down how we're going to structure our social media for the year, what that looks like, what the content will be. Now, some of it isn't Some of it isn't all canned. Some of it is open for relevant current events, fill in the blank as you go. But some of the evergreen stuff gets done and is finished before we start the new year, just so that it's finished and we can move forward and we can hit the ground running in January. But I think it's really important that we're all on the same page. Each teammate, we've already talked to each other. I mean, going into the business planning, saying, what needs to change? Does our commission structure within the team need to change? What worked for you this year? Where did you felt like you didn't have value? How would you change it? So don't just complain, but come to me with suggestions so that we can take the collective mind and figure out how it's going to be better.
Yeah, that's great. So I want to tilt back to our original topic and talk about the mindset of buyers in a market like this. As we said, it's a tale of two cities. Home prices seem very stable, even appreciating, but hey, the market is slow. So with rising rates, is there a lot of reassurance that needs to be done with clients now? Or are they sort of looking at the landscape and saying, you know what, I don't love the higher rates, but I love the ability to take longer with my purchase decision and get luxuries that weren't possible for a while, such as home inspections and just really having a real detailed purchase plan?
So the buyers that we have been working with primarily are folks that were introduced to us anywhere from, a month ago to years ago, literally years ago. And some of them are the ones that just the frenzy of the last 3 years was just too much for them. And I'll use risk tolerance. I mean, like the stock market, your risk tolerance was low, and they are kicking themselves on the fact that they don't have the interest rate. But where they sleep at night is that while we were talking to them during those markets was real simple. We kept it boiled down to reality, which is what we're doing now. And with the reality is then they were comfortable spending a certain amount. They were not comfortable waiving a home inspection, and they certainly were not going to waive an appraisal and bring more cash to the table if it wasn't substantiated. So it was real simple. They slept at night. We advised them. They don't have a house, but they still want home ownership. They see the value of home ownership. They know that it's going to build their wealth when they own that home. So now, and we talked to them, hey, this one came up. We're looking at these properties. Okay, you want to see this home in Falls Church? Wonderful. Let's go back to your lender, see what the interest rate is today. Are you comfortable with this structure? I know you said you wanted to do 5%. Do you want to do 10% and buy down a point, which will make you feel better? So we're having a constant reality check with every single buyer. The lenders are being wonderful and providing the information and providing the payment structures. The buyers are considering other alternative financing type of scenarios where maybe they take the adjustable rate arm because they do only plan being in the property for 5 years. So it makes sense to do an adjustable rate. So we're having to go outside of necessarily who they came to the table with initially in order to satisfy those needs and meet those needs from a financial standpoint. Case in point, I had a first-time home buyer. He was going to go with a local lender, saw the value in that, but the reality is the local lender couldn't hit the adjustable rate arms that the credit unions were able to meet. So he went with a 5-year arm with a credit union, and it met his financial bottom line. So we keep an open communication with them. We keep them grounded in reality. Can you afford this? Is this a place that you can see yourself growing? We keep it real because as they start to compromise on the size of the property or something about the property, we'll bring them back to reality. Case in point, I had one person that really wanted to stay west. He started to loop down to the east. I said, are you sure? That's a great house. It meets all your needs. But when we talked, you didn't want to be out west or out east, you wanted to be out west. Are you what has changed that is now a consideration? So we'll be fluid with them, but I think in general we just need to consult, keep them in reality, and keep that conversation going so that they're comfortable moving forward.
Did that guy stay east or go west? I'd love to hear.
He stayed west, commute 1.
You definitely don't want to spend your life in a car. I can relate to that. So thank you so much for sharing all of this with us here today, Tracey. I'm excited to hear your plan for 2024, and I'm excited to have you part of our Redwood business planning that we're going to do here in the coming weeks. So thank you so much for being here.
Oh, it was my pleasure.
And also thank you for singing with me.
We are the world. Oh God, I'm not going to quit my day job.
All right, if you like these videos despite our singing, what I want you to do is hit the like button and then hit subscribe so you'll be notified when we have more videos like this.
Till next time, keep it Redwood.